Hi VC, how you doing? It's Gordon at I Dig Vinyl, back with another video. This time I'm going to take a close look at the weird and wacky world of the musical landscape of 1980. I'm doing that because having spent my last couple of videos exploring the 1970s and picking out a couple of albums from each year of that amazing decade in music, I plan to continue that sort of process all the way through the 80s and so on. But when I got to 1980, I had a bit of a moment when I thought to myself, there's so much going on in this year in terms of music, but also the world around that I want to stop and kind of try to understand that from my own point of view. So, as someone who enjoys music, I enjoy learning about the world around me as well. And the more I've got into the VC and thinking about my collection, the more I've kept on scratching at a surface of ignorance from me and diving down into more and more. And wow, where are the depths of my the ignorance of my musical knowledge, and how come I don't know that about the world at that time? So I'm going to take a little pause. I'm going to educate myself a wee bit through music, try to understand what was going on in the world that led to the music and how the music maybe influenced the world. That's basically my plan. In doing so, I'm going to take my time, work my way through the 80s bit by bit. I'm going to um, probably renovate my record collection a wee bit as I go along, and I'm definitely going to expand my musical knowledge quite dramatically. So that's what I'm doing. I hope you enjoy, and hope you can help educate me a little bit. I'm one of these guys who I thought I knew quite a lot about music, but I've realised I knew a little bit about a little bit. And now what I'm quite keen to do is to find out more, and I'm fascinated with the 80s. The 80s was a decade that I was awful young at the start of it. So I was 4 at the beginning of the 80s. I wasn't really queuing up to get into post punk concerts and things like that. I was 4. And when I got into music properly at the end of the decade, I kind of thought I knew all about the 60s and the 70s through my friends, and that's the area that we get into. And naturally, we were into the stuff of the 1990s as well, but the 80s just got left behind for me. So I've been rectifying that slowly and steadily. And what's fascinated me in this particular year, 1980, is just what was going on. It just seems to be this massive period of, unfortunately, it's a tragic year in music. There's an awful lot of stuff going on in the world outside, which probably helps to kind of anticipate the musical evolutions that are going on as well. And it's the type of thing that, as someone who loves music, I wasn't particularly aware of, and now I'm kind of fascinated by it. So basically, what I'm going to do is share some albums from 1980. Some of them are new. I've added to my collection quite recently. I'm probably avoiding some of the big hitters. Um, that will be because they're maybe not in my collection. They might be away in storage because I've kind of moved around things recently, or it might just be because I'm more interested in scratching into other areas at the moment. So I've got a big blend of stuff to share. I think I've got about 6 or 7 or 8, something like that. But it's really against the context of 1980 that I'm kind of interested in. So 1980, musical deaths. It sounds really negative, but it's a tragic year. We lose untimely deaths of John Lennon. You've got John Bonham. We've got Bon Scott of AC/DC dying at the start of the year. Tragically, also all tragic, but Ian Curtis as well. So these are kind of titans of their musical areas. Ian Curtis was only 23 when he died. So that kind of year of change in terms of musical genres moving on. Punk is already kind of blazed in its kind of glorious punky way. Post punk's getting started, is already underway. There's the beginnings of rap and hip hop starting to emerge. There's the change in use of like drum machines and things like that coming in. So much seems to just begin round about this time period. So I'm going to dive in with that. Outside, I've got a little note in front of me. 1980, not only in music, it's a big massive year of change and contrast, Cold War tensions. Ronald Reagan's about to take on the presidency. We've got Mrs Thatcher in charge over here in the UK. Brilliant. Not. Solidarity forming in Poland. You can see the kind of unrest with the Cold War, etc. Iran and Iraq war's about to break out. Zimbabwe gets independence. So all of this stuff's happening. It's a fascinating melting pot where the music starts to come out. So if you're still with me, thank you very much for getting through that wee bit. But it's important from my own perspective to try to understand where the music's coming from. So on with the albums. Thought it'd be quite appropriate to start with this great piece of post-punk. Is it post-punk? I don't know. Punk? I don't know. Is it ska? Yes, it's all of those things. It's the Members and their album, which came out in January of the year. It's called 1980 The Choice Is Yours, and I love that title. It's just putting it out there for everyone to kind of have a think about, really. The choice is yours. So great upbeat tunes, a bit of ska there. There's reggae flavours, there's punk flavours, super catchy stuff. I really like this band. I haven't heard much else from them. Their big hit was The Sound of the Suburbs, which I think's on an earlier one. I really enjoy it though. They didn't last much longer than that. Something else about 1980 in the music, I sort of figured out that a lot of the bands that just burn brightly, then they disappear. It's probably the aesthetics of the time, but the Members came out of that sort of punk movement. Very, very catchy band, really enjoyable, and right at the start of the year. I'm going to show a couple of quick reggae albums now, a style of reggae that I've really started to enjoy. So artist here, Barry Brown, Cool Pawn Your Corner, this one from 1980. Barry Brown wasn't an artist I'd heard of at all until quite recently. This is really good roots reggae. So it's got that kind of, the references to what you'd probably expect on the back. Things like that, moving on to the Promised Land and Jaja Fire and so on. Really, really cool. I believe it's coming out of is it the Channel 1 studio? I'd love to know a bit more about that. So Barry Brown, quite a prolific singer. It's cool, roots reggae style. He goes on to, I think he dies in the recording studio in something like 2004. He had an accident, but brilliant artist. Again, somebody I hadn't heard of, unlike this maestro, of course. So from 1980 as well, Bob Marley and the Wailers, the album Uprising. It's a brilliant album. Wow, probably one of my favourite albums by Bob Marley. It's so powerful. It's got some really well-known songs, stuff like Could You Be Loved and so on. The Redemption song is a magnificent final song. Kind of conscious that Bob Marley, this is released in 1980. He dies in May 1981. The front of it, that sort of sense that his message lives on, which comes out in Redemption song as well. Fantastic. But again, a sort of changing of the guard comes with the passing of Bob Marley later on. Next up, Talking Heads. What an album. This is one I would put into my masterpiece masterpiece box, if that's, I don't have such a thing, but you know what I mean. Every single song in this album, it connects in a way that the whole thing works. So you know how sometimes you'll get an album with a couple of great songs, a couple of songs not so effective, etc. This one, it just seems like everything is kind of been planned out so that you get that cohesive change of mood and so on. There's a sense of the kind of polyrhythms going on. It's definitely got a sense to me that's different to what's gone before. And there's also that sort of sense of this is influencing a lot of music that's yet to come. Strangely enough, songs like, I don't know, stuff like Born Under Punches and so on, The Great Curve, the opening couple of tracks really reminds me of the Happy Mondays, which is about 10 years later. You're getting that electronic led, sort of almost the baggy rhythm. Basically, slow down Talking Heads, and you're getting a kind of background beat that I could imagine Sean Ryder et al. Getting a hold of in Manchester in around about 1989. tremendous album, just a brilliant album from 1980. That's Talking Heads, Remain in Light. Next up, this is an album that again I only picked up quite recently. It was in a kind of hall of other albums. I wouldn't have sought it out probably otherwise. If you look at the album cover and you don't know Stanley Clarke, I wonder what you're thinking the genre might be here. Is it rock music? Is it prog? Is it is this jazzy? Is it soul? I'm not too sure. Actually, it's all of those. It's all of that together. I really like this album. Stanley Clarke. This would probably be it might get categorised as some sort of jazz fusion, I guess, but show the band in the back. There's Stanley in the middle. Or, sorry, here he is. Stanley Clarke, maestro of the electric bass, phenomenal, or a phenomenon on the bass. This is unlike the Talking Heads album. It's like all sorts of different genres, one after the other, almost like I don't know. It's like we can do all of these different things. What do you fancy? There's soulful moments. There's quite rocky moments. There's definitely jazzy bits going on as well. So it's all of those things at the same time. This was an album that I thought was quite interesting to show because it's released in 1980, and it seems to be a blend of pretty much all the genres that fell before it, all combined in one thing. Don't know much about Stanley Clarke. I think he's certainly a highly esteemed musician. Very, very cool album. I will seek out more of his stuff, so something that I enjoyed. Stanley Clarke's album, Rocks, Pebble and Sand. Next up, I wanted to show one which, again, from the point of view of the year 1980, it seamlessly follows on from what came before. So Brothers Johnson, another one of their cool albums, and this one is, I think, their third album, called Light Up the Night. What I'm particularly drawn to with the Brothers Johnson, this is another cool sort of, it's somewhere between a bit of soul, disco and funk, and I suppose it's doing all of those things at the same time as well. It's produced by Q himself, it's Quincy Jones, and there's his influence is stamped throughout. It's that real high quality Quincy Jones production, very similar to the production on stuff like Off the Wall, Michael Jackson. And I can see that link with Michael Jackson here quite specifically because Michael Jackson, he's the co-writer on the brilliant tune This Had to Be. Mega funky, super catchy. Michael Jackson's the co-writer and he sings backing vocals. You could pretty much imagine the whole album being a Michael Jackson album. But of course with the Brothers Johnson, fantastic musicians. I don't know if, is it Louis Johnson or Lewis? I'm not too sure. I'm going to maybe guess it's Louis, but the Johnson brother who plays bass guitar, again, absolute maestro of a musician. He goes on to play on Michael Jackson's Thriller. When you're listening to Billie Jean, that's him. A magnificent musician. But this is a great album, I would say, in its own right. It opens with that cool tune Stomp. And it does sound very much of the time in terms of its disco, its funk, its soulful, and you can kind of see the direction of travel into the later 80s. So Brothers Johnson, I think I've got 3 of their albums now and I enjoy them all. It's a cool one by them. Next up, I have got, this is one that I picked up in a charity shop quite recently, Skids. Third album by them again. This one is called The Absolute Game. Skids this is a good example, I think, of I suppose it goes into the post-punk category. The Skids are at this point 1983 albums down, and they are basically about to kind of fall apart. We're going to see the end of Stuart Adamson and I think Russell Webb after this album, and Stuart Adamson certainly heads off to its big country next in kind of stadium stardom. This is a cool album. I think the the Skids themselves, I went to see them in 1990. They did a kind of, sorry, what am I talking about? 2010 it was. A reunion gig in Glasgow. It was brilliant. The place was absolutely packed, jumping. Didn't recognise these songs back then. It's the kind of tracks from the first album that I was more drawn to, but having got a hold of this album, it's really, really good. Opener, Circus Games, brilliant track in particular. Do really like Richard Jobson as a singer. There's a bit of controversy that I didn't know about at all. Someone who quite liked the Skids. And I don't know if there's any truth in it whatsoever, but their second album, Days in Europa, kind of heavily criticised by the likes of John Peel for its kind of possible sort of linked to sort of Nazi-like symbolism in the album cover. And what this was criticised for, which I found a bit weird, is it says here it contains a free album, and yes, it is inside. It's a kind of bonus album, which is the musicians basically switched their instruments around, and they called it this, which I haven't listened to it yet. It's called Strength Through Joy. Now, Strength Through Joy, Richard Jobson says he got the title from, I think is it Dirk Bogarde? An actor's biography. However, it was criticised because Strength Through Joy is a programme for the workers in Nazi Germany. I've got no idea what the truth of that is. I know it's a good album. Lots of straight up kind of post-punk rocky stuff. First track's really good actually. It's got a 14-person choir in the background as well. But yeah, Skids, great Scottish band, but they're about to kind of finish after that. Flying through here. So I'm going to calm down, have a wee drink of my Iron Brew. Before I introduce this last one, the last one is just post-punk perfection. An album that seems to suit the aesthetics of this time period really well, because they sort of came out of nowhere. Very much that sort of DIY approach in terms of being discovered, releasing their album, and then disappearing again. Their music isn't like stuff that's gone before at all. The closest connection I could maybe make is to Joy Division, but I think they just sound pretty unique to me. Just a 3-piece coming out of Cardiff in South Wales, and the album is this brilliant Young Marble Giants. The only album they released, it's called Colossal Youth. Okay, Colossal Youth. This is brilliant stuff. I would say Talking Heads album's a masterpiece. I don't know if that's far off it, just in terms of perfection. It's a 3-piece, 2 brothers, young female vocalist. Every moment counts in that, including the silences within the instruments. There's drum machine going on. There's organ, drum machine, guitar, and bass. Everything is perfect in it. It doesn't sound like anything that's really gone before, and as I say, not so much like anything that came after it. So they were discovered and they were pushed through Rough Trade Records. I don't really know why they didn't really go anywhere beyond that. The singer, she went on to do some stuff herself, but it was very different to the style here. The album itself is a reissue. It's got this great set of liner notes that I've started to read through. Really extensive actually. Tells you a lot about the movement of the time and so on. But it's tremendous. So yeah, I finished with that one. So that's me. I've kind of whirled through it. I still probably spoke for a bit longer than I fancied there. Eight albums in total. But really what I'm trying to do is understand the time a wee bit better. As I said, I was just 4. It hadn't occurred to me what was going on in the wider world, and it's a long time later that I've started to kind of, I suppose, listen to the music properly. So I'd love to hear your own thoughts about that time period, 1980, and I suppose if you've got favourite albums, favourite memories, etc., please share them. I want to learn a bit more. I'm going to use this wee process to expand my knowledge of my record collection as well. I look forward to seeing how it evolves. I don't have an awful lot of stuff out of the 80s. I've got probably some fairly predictable bits and pieces, but I'm going to renovate that, which I'll need to do in a careful way without breaking the bank balance, etc. Anyway, take care, everybody. Cheers for watching. Bye for now.